اللهم صل على محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخضع لها كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء. يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تهتك العسل. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تخير النعم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تقطع الرجاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء. اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبت وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضيا قانعا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته
وعظم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكروك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك، ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوب غافرا ولا لقبائحي ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترته وكم من فادح من البلاء يقنته وكم من عثار وقيت وكم من مكروه دفعت وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرت. اللهم عظم بلائي وأفرط بي سوء حالي وقصرت بي أعمالي وقعدت بي أغلالي وحبسني عن نفعي بعد آمالي وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها وبطالي. يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك ألا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تعاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا. إلهي وربي من لي غيرك أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي ولم أحترس فيه من تزيين عدوي فغرني بما هو وسعده على ذلك القضاء فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعد حدودك وخالفت بعض أوامرك فلك الحجة علي في جميع ذلك ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاك وألزمني حكمك وبلاك وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مذعنا معترفا لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة من رحمتك اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شدي وفاقي يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عظمي يا من بدأ خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي هبني لابتداء كرمك والصاني في برك بي يا إلهي وسيدي وربي أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد من طوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولهج به لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع مرا بيتا أو تبعد من أدنيت أو تشرد من آويت أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمته وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدة وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقة وبشكرك مادحة وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققة وعلى ضمائر حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة وعلى جوارح سعت إلى أوطان تعبدك طائعة وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنة ما هكذا الذن بك ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا ربي وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكثور يسير بقاؤه قصير مدته فكيف احتمال لبلاء الآخرة وجليل الوقوع المكاره فيها وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض يا سيدي فكيف بي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما من هاذ وابكي لأليم العذاب وشدته أم لطول البلاء ومدته فلئن صيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي. صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك، وهبني صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر عن النذر إلى كرامتك. أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجاء عفوك، فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقا لأضجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج العاملين، ولأصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين، ولأبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين، ولأنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين، يا غاية آمال العارفين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين، ويا إله العالمين. أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيته وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرته، وهو يضج إليك ضجيج مؤمل لرحمتك ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي، فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك؟ أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك؟ أم كيف يحرقه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه؟ أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفه؟ أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقه؟ أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا ربه؟ أم كيف يرجو فضلك في عتقه منها فتتركه فيها؟ هيهات، ما ذلك الذن بك وللمعروف من فضلك، ولا مشبه لما عملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك، فباليقين يقطع لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاحدين وقضيت به من إخلاد معانديك لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما، وما كان لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما، لكنك تقدست أسماءك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين، وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين، وأن تجل ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما، أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. يا إلهي وسيدي، فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه يجريتها، أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمت وكل ذنب أذنبت وكل قبيح أسررت وكل جهل عملته كتمته أو أعلنته أخفيته أو أظهرت وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها كرام كاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جوارحي، وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم، وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت، وأن توفر حظي من كل خير تنزله أو إحسان تفضله أو بر تنشر أو رزق تبسط أو ذنب تغفره أو خطأ تستره يا ربي يا ربي يا رب. Everyone together يا ربي يا ربي يا ربي يا ربي يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رزقي، يا من بيده ناصيتي، يا عليما بضري ومسكنتي، يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي، يا ربي يا ربي يا أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي في الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورة وبخدمتك موصولة وأعمالي عندك مقبولة، حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا. يا سيدي يا من عليه معولي، يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي، يا ربي قو على خدمتك جوارحي واشدد على العزيمة جوانحي، وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرح إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في المبادرين وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين وأخافك مخافة الموقنين وأجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين. اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فأرد ومن كادني فكد، واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك وأقربهم منزلة منك وأخصهم زلفة لديك، فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك، وجد لي بجودك وعطف علي بمجدك واحفظني واحفظني برحمتك، واجعل لي لساني بذكرك لهجا، وقلبي بحبك متيما، ومن علي بحسن إجابتك، وأقل لي عثرتي، واغفر زلتي، فإنك قضيت على بعبادتك، وأمرتهم بدعائك، وضمنت لهم الإجابة، فإليك يا ربي نصبت وجهي، وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي، فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي، وبلغني مناي، ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي، واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي، يا سريع الرضا، اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء، فإنك فعال لما تشاء، يا من اسمه دواء، وذكره شفاء، وطاعته غنى، ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء، وسلاحه البكاء، يا سابغ النعم، يا دافع النقم، يا نور المستوحشين في الظلم، يا عالما لا يعلم، صل على محمد وآل محمد، وافعل بي ما أنت أهله، وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله، وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم إياك نعبد الصراط المستقيم. اللهم صل على I feel like every week we have to say that the salawat is a dhikr, it's an honor to be able to do it. I know I remember someone was telling us that there was times where if you wanted to do a salawat in your household in certain countries, you had to be careful, very, very, very careful. And alhamdulillah, in this country, we can be as loud as we want when we do the salawat on Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. So the only thing that stops us is our willingness to do so, maybe our belief to do so. So inshallah, if you feel that it could be beneficial to your soul, if you feel it can get you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if you feel the holy household of Muhammad are worthy of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then inshallah in honor of Rasul al-A'zam Muhammad, his dear daughter Fatima al-Zahra, her dear husband Ali ibn Abi Talib, and their dear children Hussaini wal Hussain in the lineage of Hussain, please offer a salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب الأسر والزمان اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Firstly, I have to apologize. Every week I start with an apology. We're imperfect souls, so please forgive me. I will have to cut our session short just slightly today as I have another commitment shortly after that I don't want to be late to. But inshallah we'll still be able to fit in a good 45-minute discussion, bi'idhnillah, with your permission. We've been going through our usul. We started with 5 sessions on Tawheed. We continued into Adala, and inshallah today we hope to almost conclude on Adala, but inshallah next week will be our final session. So if you do have any final questions on the topic of Adala, please keep them noted. Next week we'll go through a last final part. We'll go through some questions, and inshallah you can come prepared with that so we can make the session vibrant. And then inshallah we'll introduce our next usul, which is the nubuwwah, the prophethood, the divine prophethood from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But thus far, where have we got into Adala? What did we last mention last week? We've been battling with this concept of predestination, of free will, and of justice. And is it possible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have justice if we believe in predestination? Or is it that if we believe in predestination, then that negates the possibility of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's justice? And therefore, how does free will come about and collaborate, if you like, with the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And we proved last week that everyone has free will. We said that if I wanted at this point in time, I could take this glass and turn it upside down and pour the water out. I do have a decision in everything that I do in life. I make that decision. Nothing, except one thing which we'll go on to, can theoretically stop me. I am able to make that decision. We said that humans need laws around us. Why? And that doesn't matter whether we're in a centre like this, or if we're out on the streets, if we're driving, if we're on the train, wherever we are, in any situation that we are, there are rules and regulations that humans have to observe. Why? Because if left to our own devices, we'd cause havoc, which is another signal that we need laws, we need regulations. Some regulations and laws are applicable in every setting that we're in. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us we shouldn't lie, whether we're in the Hussainiyah or outside the Hussainiyah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us you should not murder anyone, whether you're inside the Hussainiyah, on the road, in a different country, it doesn't matter. But He doesn't say we should be silent in all contexts. In some situations, we should be silent, for example, in those who are more knowledgeable than us. But in other contexts, we should speak up in the face of oppression. Hayhat min nadhir. Never will we bow to oppression. Never will be humiliated by oppression. So there are rules that govern us throughout our life, and there are some rules that are applicable in certain situations. And this is another illustration and proof that we have free will. Otherwise, why do we need all these rules? And those who believe that predestination is a thing, and that, no, we can't do anything about it, everything that we do is determined and it's out of our hands, it's ironic that those very same people, when someone hits their car, they want to take them to the court of law. But according to their logic, if this person that hit their car, it was completely predestined for them, why are you taking them to the court of law? Poor guy, like he didn't know he could do anything like that. He couldn't do anything to stop it. No, he takes him to the court of law because this man must be held accounted for their actions. Because he made a decision. He used his free will to say, I will speed, and therefore I will put you at risk, and therefore I may crash into you, so you must be held accountable. So we've proven this beyond any doubt, that anyone who engages their rational mind will conclude that man has free will. So the question that then comes into play is, what's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's role then? How does Allah fit into this jigsaw? If we have free will, and we can do whatever the hell we want, inshallah, heaven that we want, then where does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fit into this equation? Is He just an observer? Does He just look on, like an examiner when you're sat there and they're like, sorry, can't help you? Is He involved? Is He like a coach? And if He's a coach, is He super hands-on, or does He just give you some guidance? How does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala interact with us if we have free will? And it's a difficult question to answer. So it's going to need your attention, but once you understand the subtlety of this, you'll notice something beautiful. And you'll notice that point that we said last week, that with that free will that Allah has given you, you take the first step. And then you see Allah come running towards you. He'll give you the environment. He's actually taken 1,000,000 steps towards you. But it's just our limited brain thinks, I'm taking the first step. But even just that, he'll still shower you with blessings. So inshallah, we'll be able to realize this if we're able to engage with this works from Ayatul Nas and Kalam al-Shirazi. And inshallah, with your blessings, we begin with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So on the one hand, we have the extreme of fatalism. Everything's predetermined, you can't do anything about it, we're all robots, we have no free will. We've discussed that. On the other extreme, we have something called the school of conferring. And I think it may be known as different concepts, but the school of conferring. What does that mean? Their belief is that God created us. He's put everything at our disposal, the world, our body, people around us, resources, plants, whatever. And he's not really responsible for anything that we do. And we're completely independent of him. And that's the crucial subtlety, and you need to connect this to Tawheed. We are, their claim on the other extreme, we are completely independent of him. Allah puts everything there, and then steps back, and we're completely independent. Now to some that may seem like, yeah, fair enough, because I can pick up this glass and I can chuck it on the floor, and I'm independent of Allah. If I wanted, I can pick up a knife and I can go stab someone in the street. Or I could get up and go be Albert Einstein if I wanted. I'm completely independent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some people will come to this conclusion. But we need to notice the subtlety here, because the subtlety illustrates something significant. And that is this. If we go into the belief that yes, I have complete free will and I am independent, then we counter Tawheed. If I go to the extreme and say I have complete free will and I am independent of Allah, then I've countered Tawheed. I've countered monotheism. How? Why? Because Tawheed taught us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rules the entire world, the entire universe. Everything that's within creation, whether it is in our known, whether it's known to us, or whether it's in the ghaib, whether it's unseen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it and has a dominant power over it. We established that in Tawheed, yes? Everyone nodding, like, does that make sense? So we can't say that we're independent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because nothing is beyond his control. Absolutely nothing. Which is why I keep saying, if I say, yes, I could pick up this glass and turn it over and chuck it on the floor, is there a chance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could prevent that from happening? Absolutely. Absolutely. Ayatul Nasr doesn't give this example, but it's one that I reflected on, so it could be wrong. But the story of the Holy Prophet, when he goes to sacrifice his son, Nabi Ibrahim, does Nabi Ibrahim change his son? No. So in that moment, if I'm turning over my glass, could Allah theoretically stop this water from coming out? Yes, of course. Because he has complete control. Can he change the animal, the person, the son, into an animal? Yes, of course. Can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if he wills, at any point today, stop the sun from rising? Yes, he can. Just like this tsunami that's happened in, where was it? In Tonga, yes. From nowhere, over like 10 days, the pictures are incredible, how it's progressed over 10 days. Something happens. Is that Allah's doing? Who knows? Who knows? Right? Maybe that's just the case of the earth. It doesn't have to be Allah triggered it, and we've already been through that. Why do we always blame Allah? It's almost like, poor Allah. Anything that bad happens to us, we firstly straight away blame Allah. Anything good, it's down to me, it's down to the doctor, it's down to someone else. Crazy. How fickle I've become to think this way. But anyway, we're saying free will, to the extreme of free will, that I'm completely independent of Allah, counters monotheism, because we believe, no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala governs, rules every single creation, which includes myself and anything I'm interacting with. More worryingly, let me put it this way, if we believe that we are completely independent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are actually advocating polytheism. Because if you negate monotheism, if you negate the oneness of something, and you're saying, no, there is space for two things to be independent, you are now advocating polytheism. You have now, وَلَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ, taken your level to that of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because we say in Surah Al-Ikhlas that He is Ahad. And now I'm saying, وَلَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ, I'm independent. No, of course I'm not. That's illogical. So how do we find this middle ground, right? It poses a very weird question. It's like, hold on, Muslims, you've got to back this one up now. This is a bit weird. You're saying we don't believe in determinism, in predestination, that everything's written, and that we're not robots, and actually we do have free will. But you're saying we're not on the edge of free will on the other side, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can actually do nothing. He can actually interfere. Like, how does this make sense? So we need to give some examples, right? Because otherwise we fall into duality, we fall into polytheism, we go away from Tawheed, and we said if the foundation is wobbly, and Tawheed is the foundation of all foundations, we're in trouble. And this is where atheists come and get us. And this is where a lot of our brothers and sisters, especially those who spend a lot of time on YouTube and listening to these polemical discussions and whatever, and alhamdulillah, they're very healthy to go and hear the challenges, but when we're not equipped ourselves with the right tooling, with the right thinking, with the right set of glasses that I always go back to, we're in big, big, big trouble. And our children are asking, especially for the parenting, our children are asking us on the dinner table these questions, and we're like, and I'm not saying 10, 15-year-olds, I'm saying 4, 5, 6-year-olds, especially young girls. SubhanAllah, the way their brain matures faster than boys is incredible, right? Young girls, they're asking so many intelligent questions, and our parents on the table, like myself, were like, I don't know how to give you a good answer to that. And guess what? School's giving them a better answer. YouTube's giving them a better answer. Media's giving them a better answer. So guess what they're going to do? As Quran states, listen to the best of it and follow it. And maybe they believe that's the best of it. Not because the arguments don't exist, but because we haven't learned them or we've not presented them to them. So we have to pay very, very close attention. How do we find what we can call the middle way? Not on the extreme of everything's written, not on the extreme that I'm completely free will, I'm independent, nothing can stop me, I do my own thing. How do we find this middle way? We accept that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just. We've proven that. He's adil. We accept that we have a level of freedom, yet responsibility at the same time. We established in Tawheed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rules over everything. How can we illustrate this with an example to see something that makes us realize how dependent we are on Him, yet we have flexibility? And I'm going to use the example of a train. So these overground trains that we see in particular, they have an overhead wire. And you see you've got the train, and then you have like that almost like antenna, right? And that connects it to the overhead cables. And if I'm not mistaken, that overhead cable gives it electricity. Am I right? Is that the right kind of theory, or does it come from the rail part? From the top, right? Cool. So this train is connected to this electricity. Does that electricity dictate when the train stops, starts, opens its doors? No. It can do it when it wants, because it's giving it the power to do so. The train has freedom, flexibility. If there's a red signal, the train stops. If someone, God forbid, is falling in front of the track, they're able to stop in time, hopefully. They're able to open the doors at the right time, whatever. But the moment that that cable becomes dislodged from the antenna of that train, what happens? I get angry because there's delays. Why? Because the train can't move. The train is disconnected from its source of power. Hold on. So from 1 second, this train had freedom. It could go in the direction it wanted. It could do whatever it wants. Because it had power coming from the overhead cable. It had flexibility, but it's still dependent. We're no different. We've got this flexibility. We've got this freedom. We can walk where we want. We can stop where we want. We can drink what we drink. We can see what we see. We can say what we say. But at some point, Allah can switch us off. The cable can be disconnected. Khalas, finished, you're done. So there's no way we can logically say that we are completely free and independent. There is no way we can say it. We know, and we've given the examples, like that candle that keeps coming in and out, for every single next breath that we are given, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ni'mah and His love and His mercy to give us another opportunity to breathe and to reflect and reflect on His greatness and to recognize our lowly station, to seek forgiveness and get closer to Him and seek perfection. Because at any time He can switch us off. So there is this middle way. We're not on this extreme that everything's written. We're not on this extreme that we do whatever we want and we're independent. We're somewhere on this middle way where we have a level of freedom, but we have a reliance on a greater power, and we're at the disposal of that greater power at any given moment. At no point in our life, just like the train, can we do what we want without the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, without the overhead cable charging us, giving us power. Does that make sense? That subtlety? And the Ai-Imma alayhim as-salam, on repeated occasions, according to Ayatollah Nasser when he's analysed the Ahadith corpus, They would be asked, does anything exist between fatalism and conferring, between these two extremes? And they're reported to repeatedly reply along the lines of, yes, more extensive than the distance between heaven and earth. Imagine how careful they are on this warning to us. Does anything exist between fatalism and conferring? Is it as subtle as we think, oh Imams? They're like, no. It's more extensive than the distance between the heaven and earth. The difference is massive. It's not a subtle difference anymore. Why? Because this power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is such that there's nothing without His kun fayakun, being it is. There is nothing. So it's not a subtle thing anymore. This tawheed is huge. His power is phenomenal. And we're nothing. But He gives us this opportunity to be our best, to pursue. And you can imagine, just a slight parenthesis, how ungrateful we would be, how ungrateful we are when we don't thank Him for the power that He gives us at every single moment. How we waste it. And this is why we say, Ya Allah, don't judge us with your justice, because we're finished if you do. We're finished. Judge us with your mercy, please, because that gives us an opportunity. So that's the logical side. Is everyone familiar? Is everyone okay with that? A few nods of the head. Everyone okay with that from the logical perspective? Okay. Now we back it up with Quranic evidence, right? And we need to. It's nice to have the logical side and then have the primary text as well. So the Holy Quran discusses this on numerous occasions, and it directly proves the free will of human beings constantly. And Ayatollah Nasser, again, who has a beautiful tafsir referred to by a load of our scholars, tafsir Namuneh, or Namuneh, is that how you pronounce it, Farsi? Namuneh, I think it is. Namuneh, right? And he has an incredible tafsir, and they're working on an English tafsir as well, which is a thematic tafsir, so rather than it being chronological order, verse 1 of Surah 1, verse 2, verse 3, they're working on a thematic tafsir now in English, which is based on different themes of Quran. They bring together all the Quranic verses and all the ahadith relating to this concept, for example, Ma'rif of Allah, and then they do commentary on that, and it helps you understand themes. So Ayatollah Nasr is known for his tafsir, and may Allah grant him and his team more tawfiq to continue. So according to his analysis, he says there's hundreds of verses which talk about free will in the Quran. Hundreds. And I'm just going to explain, and this is very, very subtle, it's not the most key point, but it's just some textual proofs again. When he looks at these different verses, he characterizes them in certain ways as to how they prove different parts of free will. So the first type, he says, relate to commanding to virtue and preventing vice. So these are verses that say, call to goodness, go and do good things, avoid sinning, etc., etc. And he says these are all a proof of the free will of human beings, because if a person was obliged to do these things, it would make no sense. Why would you call unto good and forbid evil if the human being didn't have a choice? It wouldn't make sense. So all of these verses that call towards it illustrate, of course we have a choice. Second type, all of the verses that blame the evildoers for what they've done and praise those who have done good, they are also a proof of free will. Because if one was obliged to do said thing, said action, then why would you talk about a reward for it? Right? If you're forced to do something, if a master tells its slave, you must do this, they're not going to get a reward for it. So it doesn't make sense that you talk about a reward. You'd only get a reward if you had an option and you did it successfully. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about it many times, and that is another proof for this free will. The third type of verse that illustrates and proves free will is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Yawm al-Qiyamah and this questioning on the Day of Judgment that's going to come. The court, the punishments, the blessings, so on and so on. Again, why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about this if you didn't have free will? Why would you hold me to account if I had no choice? You would only hold me to account if I had a choice, and therefore you had to hold me to account. And then you have more explicit verses. For example, كُلُّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ رَهِينَ, which I think we mentioned last week. Surah 74, verse 38. Every soul will be held in pledge for its deeds. It's clear, you're going to have to account for it at some point. Another one, إِنَّ هَدَيْنَاهُ السَّبِيلِ إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا. 76, verse 3. We showed him the way, whether he be grateful or ungrateful. We've given them a chance, basically. Surah Al-Insan, verse number 3. So you see these repeated verses in Quran that come up and saying, look, free will is a thing. So again, we shouldn't turn up to the day of judgment like, oh, I didn't know I had a choice in all of this because society was telling me it's all pre-written for you. No, this is a misunderstanding of the context, and we're going to come to explain this. So the conclusion of this point at this point in time is what? We do have free will, but we acknowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the power. He is the electricity cable for us to do what we're going to do. And at any point, we can be unplugged. At any point. So we need to be careful of our actions. So what's God's role then? He gives us the power. He gives us the electricity. So what does he do? Does he sit back and watch once he's done that? Or is his role solely, here's the power, and I'm going to see what happens? What else? Is there any other involvement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And this is really important because a lot of people ask this question. Why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not guiding me? I'm struggling so much. Why is Allah not guiding me? I'm struggling so much difficulty. Ya Allah, guide me, guide me, guide me. And then they say, oh, Sadiq, he's not guiding me. I don't believe him in anymore. He always talks about in the Quran that he's going to guide me. And then what happens? An atheist says, have you seen this verse? Allah says he's not going to guide you. Ya Allah, I have no hope, so now I've given up. Okay, just from a few moments of struggling, then someone's giving you like the last punch, the Anthony Joshua knockout punch, which is God's not going to guide you, a line in Quran. And because you now believe this guy who's never read the Quran in his life, but he's Googled and says, what punishment verses are there? There's a strong one, give it to Sadiq. And Sadiq said, oh, finished it. Normal belief. Honestly, this is how wobbly we've become. I've seen it with conversations that I've had myself, and I'm just sat with old friends and like, is this seriously what's happened? And it drives us to crazy decisions. If Allah's not with me, then I'm going to become ungrateful. If I can't ungrateful, guess what happens? We stop believing in His Sharia. So we start eating this, we stop wearing that, we start doing this, we stop doing that. And as you lose all of these tenets, it's very difficult to come back. Very difficult. So, what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's role? Does He sit back and watch us suffer? Or does He get involved? And if He gets involved, does He get so involved that He's literally like forcing us into a direction? Or is that unfair? What's the balance? So, to understand this point, this example I think is beautiful. If someone were to come here and say, excuse me, I've just arrived in Hounslow, I've just come from Heathrow Airport, can you guide me to where St. Paul's Cathedral is? Because I'm meeting someone there. You have two options, or three. Either you could be horrible and just say no, it's not very nice, right? But let's assume you're going to help them. You have one of two options. Either you say, you know what, jump in my car, I'm going to take you right to St. Paul's, right to the door, I'm going to find out where the entrance is because you don't speak English. I'm going to make sure you get in, and I'm going to wave goodbye once I've seen that you've met your family member. Funny little thing on the side, Iranians, it's amazing, yeah? They have this tradition, I don't know what it is, but I find it super spooky, but it's beautiful. When you drop them and when you leave their house, they will wait outside their house and you have to say Khudafis 3 times. Super weird. So if you don't time it well, as you get to the car, you turn around, they're still in the door, and they're like, Khudafis. You get inside the car, you switch it on, Khudafis, and then as you turn the car and you're about to now drive off, one more and they're still at the door. I find it so weird, it's beautiful. They really want to make sure you leave, safely. I won't say anything else, but no, alhamdulillah, it's a beautiful little tradition. Anyway, so you have the choice. This guy said, can you take me to St. Paul's Cathedral? You have choice, one of two choices. Either you drive him right there, make sure he gets there. Or you say, okay, I'll drop you to Osterley Station, get on the Piccadilly line, right the way until... How do we get to St. Paul's? Come on, bro.
I think it's in the central line.
Yeah, it's in the central
Green
line.
Park Central Line.
Green Park is not central line.
Green Park. Go to Green Park and change from Central Line.
No, Green Park you have to get the Jubilee line. Jubilee line up to Bond Street Central Line, St. Paul's. True? Huh? No. True, right? You can check it. Anyway, it's a tough one. 3 stops, 3 changes. So you can give him the guidance. But what's going to happen? Poor guy, he's going to struggle. Westbound, eastbound, northbound, southbound, delays. This one stops here, this one's shut, Northern Line shut. What happens, right? But you've got 2 options. Either you take them directly or you give them a set of instructions and see how they fare. In both cases, you've guided them. If I gave him those instructions and you came to me and said, Sadiq, that was so unfair, you didn't guide him. I'm like, what do you mean? I gave him instructions, step by step, platform by platform. I've guided him. I could have guided him more. I could have guided him less. I said, get to Austin and take the train. As most of us do, just get the train, bro. I can't bother to give you instructions. But in both cases, you've guided. The difference is that one of them is that you've taken him to the destination. The second is that you've given them instructions. Can you see where we're going with this? We're trying to understand to what extent does Allah guide us? Does he take us to the door? Does he give us instructions? What does he do? How is he involved? Or does he just not guide us at all? The Quran and the Hadith mention both ways. Sometimes even, there's an instinctive guidance too, which is governed by the laws and rules of creation. What does that mean? Take, for example, a fetus and how it grows in the mother's womb. Beautiful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't given the womb instructions, said do this now, do this. No. It, through instinct, through the set of laws and governing rules which we discussed in the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it grows in a certain way just by instinct and eventually forms a baby. SubhanAllah, what an amazing creation. Just like a flower, you plant it and through the rules of science and the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made this beautiful world, it grows to blossom. You don't need to give it instructions. But you and I, we need some instructions. We need some guidance. So to what extent does he get involved? As I mentioned before, there are also then verses that suggest that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leads you astray or takes you astray. Whilst there are some that says he guides you. And this is where people get confused. How do I line these two up? Do I have any hope? No doubt, the indication of the way, the direction you should go in comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is for sure. Why? And what's the proof? Well, he sent the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala and through the Holy Prophet, he revealed the Quran. Kitab Allah wa itrati Ahlul Bayt. Follow these two things and you'll never go astray. They're together forever, right? So he's given these two guides. Walking guides and the written guide, if you like. The spiritual guide. So he's given guides. However, reaching the goal through coercion and force would go against free will. If Allah said, you now have to go here, I'm taking you, get in the car, we're going simple, you have to get off, that would be coercion, that would be force, that would be anti-free will. So yes, we believe in free will. But remember, we don't go to the other side where we're like, everything is prescribed. So there is the middle way. The hadith, difference between the sky, the earth and the sky, and the heavens. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the power, the electricity, and the free will to reach our goal. I can turn the glass upside down or whatever, I can do what I want. It's God who gives us success on this journey. It completely comes from Him. Thus it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the preparation is on us. That's our responsibility. And again, you can kind of take this example with like the evolution of trains and the way they've like become automated over time, right? That this train is given the electricity, you've got the set of instructions, you know you need to hit the button, you know you need to hit the button again. It's whether you now follow those instructions or not. You've got them, you know how to do this. It's whether you want to do it or not. It's not going to be through coercion. The train's not going to move itself. You need to press the button. You need to make the intention to do X. You need to make the intention to not do Y. It's on you, but it all comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we read lines, for example, فَيُضِلُّ اللَّهُ مَن يَشَاءُ وَيَهْدِي مَن يَشَاءُ. Surah 14 verse 4. God guides whom He wills and misleads whom He wills. What? What do you mean He misleads? How much you want to bet when we do those Facebook posts, we're going to post فَيُضِلُّ مَن يَشَاءُ. God guides whom He wills. And we just stop that bit. We're like, here you go, there's a nice Instagram post, take that part. But the second half of it, if we posted that, so many of us will be like, this God is unfair. Why? He misleads whom He wills. What do you mean He misleads? Since when is this fair? What's happened now? I thought it was about a just God, gives us the instructions, not like rips them up in front of your face. Like, what's happened now? What happened to free will? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said He's going to do it for you. Look, when we look at these verses, and this is a lesson that I'm sure you all know, but I'll reiterate it. When someone brings you a verse, and when you come across a verse, do not read it in isolation. Do not do tafsir of your own opinion. Please. I say this to myself before, it's so easy to happen. Just take a step back, go and consult the mufassirin who have studied the sciences of Islam, who understand the tools by which you can do commentary of Quran, and follow theirs. And if you want to do your own tafsir, beautiful. Go and study first how to do it, and then you can start doing it under the guidance of your teachers. But don't start doing it yourself. I said that to myself before anyone else. Because we do it without realizing. And what can happen is that you can say to your child, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He's going to guide you in every single situation, etc., etc., etc. Now that child goes off and does all of the worst in the world. And they come out saying, Mom, but you told me Allah's going to guide me. Yeah, Allah had conditions for those who He guides. No, but Mom, you told me. Okay, I did tafsir of opinion, tafsir of right. We're in a dangerous position. So we then see this verse in Quran 14:27. God will establish and strengthen those who believe with the word that stands firm in this world and in the hereafter. But God will leave to stray those who do wrong. God does what He wills. Let's just read this again. If you have it on your phone, if you have Quran on your phone, 14:27, try and bring it up. I'll give you a second if you have it. 14:20. And if you don't have Quran on your phone, iQuran Lite is a must. And you can tag different verses and you can put the subtopic that it's related to. And you can just tag them and then you can go back through after speakers have shared the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. 14:27. Inshallah, you can avoid the WhatsApp message that's coming, but that can wait till later. So pay attention. God will establish in strength those who believe. God will establish in strength those who believe. There's a condition. It doesn't say God will establish in strength whoever. There's a condition, those who believe. With the word that stands firm in this world and the hereafter. A beautiful amount of knowledge and guidance Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you. But God will leave to stray, to go into the abyss those who do wrong. God does what He wills. So now that child that you once upon a time promised saying, no matter what you do, God is going to guide you. He murders, he kills, he drinks, he comes back and says, Mom, I know I'm in jail, but can you help me now? Because God said, you said God's going to sort me out. Now, of course, we never lose faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you're still in that mindset of like, yeah, everything I did was fine, when are you going to sort me out now, God? It doesn't quite work that way. God will leave to stray those who do wrong. And God does that which He wills. So when we look at that previous verse, God guides whom He wills and misleads whom He wills. And someone says, look, this is a proof that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing everything and you have no choice. You present this verse. No. He guides based on conditions. He stops guiding on conditions. So you can't bring one side and not bring the other. It's on conditions. It's on your free will based on what you're deciding to do. Surah 40 verse 34. Thus does God leave to stray such as transgress and live in doubt. Verse 29, Surah 29 verse 69. And those who strive in our cause will certainly guide them to our paths. For verily Allah is with those who do right. Again, there's a condition. You need to go and do right. You need to go do something and Allah's going to guide you. The condition's on us to do something. We've got to move. With what? With our free will, we engage it. How do we engage it? By protecting our environment to make sure we're doing the right kind of things. Otherwise, we're going to engage it in the wrong way and make the wrong decisions. This free will is incredible. When you think of it as a philosophical concept, it's beautiful. Allah has given you the ability in every second of your day to make a decision. At any moment in time, imagine you turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and He's like, sorry, you didn't do enough. And you reply, imagine you reply, if I have the audacity to reply to Allah with the following words, I didn't have enough time. Well, but you had 24 hours, times by 60 minutes, times by 60 seconds, times by the number of days that you've lived. You're telling me for one of those seconds you didn't manage to turn back to Ya Sari' al-Ridha, or the one who's readily pleased. He just wanted to see that khushu', that sincerity, that weakness, that lowliness that we discussed in Dua-E-Kumayl. Just to turn back to Him. And just that, maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, given that He's the one who's readily pleased, will guide His creation because He has that much mercy and love on them. But you have to engage your free will to do so. So as we see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will is not unaccountable. It's very much accountable. We can see it. We can see in what cases it will exist. He neither gives the success of guidance to a person, nor does He deny a person, success. But those who undertake the jihad, the struggle, the difficulty, the daily battles in life between your lowly desires or your intellect, between going towards Allah or away from Him, they've been promised guidance, and that is justice. Because they do something and Allah puts it in its rightful place. I'm going to guide you now. And as we said, maybe philosophically we could say, even the one who's doing bad, is Allah not guiding them? He's giving them an environment where he's able to make a decision, but he's still deciding not to. He's still deciding not to. Allah has given him the opportunity. That opportunity is never gone, which I find so interesting when you reflect. And this is, as I said, a personal opinion, so this could be wrong. But the opportunity is never lost for anyone until they're dead. Theoretically, right? You could argue people will pray for you, so on and so on, but the opportunity is there until the last second. And Allah's giving you that opportunity. It's incredible how merciful that is. That line in Dua-E-Kumayl, وَتَتَحَبَّبُ إِلَيَّ فَأَتَبَغَّضُ إِلَيْكَ. That you turn to me with love, but I turn back to you with anger. I'm so guilty. I'm so guilty of this. But those who create oppression, suppression, who take steps towards extravagance, doubt, injustice, causing temptation in the hearts, God takes away their possibility of guidance. At some point, maybe it's come off. And their hearts, as a result of these deeds, are darkened, and they won't be able to succeed in reaching the station of well-being. And that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leaves the results of our deeds in our own hands. And this is justice. This is this beautiful concept. Find me a more incredible creation in mankind that humans come up with than this. The concept philosophically is incredible. You can have Dawkins and all these guys come and present their best arguments to try and twist you. You won't find something wiser than the model that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. And the very fact that they're able to even think about these concepts is an illustration that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's power that He's given through them, yet they're misusing it against Him. Why? Because they've tried to find a level of duplicity. We're independent of this Creator, the very Creator that's keeping you breathing. You naive fools. Seriously? Are we falling for that still at the moment? But the moment we're faced with our mother who passes away in front of us, or the moment we're faced with a younger sibling that dies at age 6 and it shouldn't have happened. What do you mean it shouldn't have happened? What do you mean? I thought you were independent of the one that can... What happened? It's incredible. What did he say right in the earlier sessions? In those moments of difficulty, the inner call of Tawheed comes out. Ya Allah, or something, Ya something. We call to something because our fitrah shouts again. It relives again. Even Fir'aun, we said, even has that moment. Some fatalists will then come and try and give the argument, so those who are on this side again. Does God know such and such person will at such hour go and kill someone or drink an alcoholic beverage or whatever? So how do we reconcile this? If Allah knows this is going to happen from this person at this time, how do we reconcile? And I think we've mentioned this before, but we'll reply with this. If we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't know what that person's going to do, then what have we done? We've gone against Tawheed. We've denied Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's infinite wisdom. So that doesn't work. If we say, yes, a person must do this, then we've compromised free will. So that doesn't work. So what is the argument when someone says, you have free will, but how does Allah know it? And then if it's written, like, how do we corroborate it? The fact is that when people try and come up with these concepts of like, oh yeah, but you know, if he's going to do that, you may as well just do it. It comes back to what we said last week. You're just pandering to make an excuse that you want to sin. You know full well, in your own conscience, that you have the decision as to whether you backbite against that person. It's completely in your control. Completely. You've got the decision. You engage your free will positively, or you take advantage of this power Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. You make the decision. Don't try and come up with these complicated, but if, then that, then if. You know it's so simple when you break it down. Allah's giving you the power, the electricity, to live, to conduct your free will. And you're going to be held accountable for it. Does He interfere? Can He interfere? Theoretically, yes. He guides. Like the guy that comes in and says, take me to St. Paul's, He guides. He gives you the instructions. The more you say thanks to the guide, the more He's going to take you to the next stop. Oh, thank you so much for taking me now. Green Park next, right? Yeah, okay, I'll help you with the changeover to the Jubilee line. Oh, thank you. Oh, is this where I have to get off now to get on the Central line? Thank you so much. Okay, I'll guide you a little bit more. I'll guide you. If you use your free will positively, Allah's going to continue to guide, strengthen your iman, continue. If you turn to that guidance and say, screw you, I don't want your help. At least as a human, we're going to be quite fickle and turn away. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we saw in those verses, if you turn away at some point, it's going to be difficult for you. But we still need to try and respond to this claim that, like, how do we figure it out in our head that Allah knows it? And I think we gave this example before, right? If you have a teacher that's been teaching for 25 years, and they see that there's a student every single time they're teaching, on his phone, not listening, never does their homework, kind of sounds like they're describing me. Usually always used to get that parents evening, he's got so much potential, but he talks too much. Okay, thank you. So they know in their 25 years of experience, look, he got 0 out of 5 on his first assignment. He couldn't do the basic principles. He's definitely not going to be able to do the arithmetic later. They know this person's going to fail the exam. Does that mean that they've interfered with it? No. They're just wise. They know what's going to happen. If throughout the entire year you've not been able to grasp the basic concepts of this module, you're not going to be able to pass it in the end. You've not interfered at all. It would be illogical, it would be wrong, it would be irrational to say the teachers interfered. No, they've given them the same opportunity. They just know, given what I've seen of you, you're going to fail. The same Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows infinitely exactly what decisions you're going to make. He knows what the outcome is going to be. Why does that mean that all of a sudden we say, oh, therefore he's interfered? No, if the teacher knows, doesn't mean that they've interfered. If Allah knows, why does that mean he interferes? Bring me some logic. Not even empirical evidence, just bring me a touch of logic to try and prove your claim. That if someone knows something, it means they've interfered. How does that make any sense in any logical stance? At all. If he's all wise, he knows what's going to happen next. Doesn't mean he's interfered. In summary, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge never obliges anyone to do anything. You have the choice. But he gives you the guidance. And you can never say he never gave you the guidance. Yes, that guidance may have been withdrawn if you turned away and never ever ever turned back. But if you turn towards, he'll guide you and guide you and guide you to the strongest level of conviction. And therefore, inshallah, this is where we'll conclude next week. This concept of adala must then necessitate that we're going to end up in a court of law one day. That we're going to have to be held accountable. And we can't run away from it. And inshallah, that's what we'll begin next week. But also, we'll then introduce the topic of nubuwwah, because part of this justice is that he needs to give us guides. It would be unfair, you could argue, that there's no guide to show us what perfection looks like. And subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't just give us one perfect guide. He gives us 14, the Ma'sumin alayhim afdal salatu wassalam, and even their companions, and even their traditions, and even their sadat, and even the Quran. How much guidance do we need before it's actually just our negligence? So inshallah, with that, we raise our hands in dua and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to use and leverage this free will that He's given us, and that if we have turned away from Him, that He is so merciful, inshallah, that He gives us another opportunity with another ounce of guidance to turn back towards Him, inshallah, through the intercession of Ali Muhammad. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
Quick one, man. Quick one.
The mic.
Yes. I'm very sorry to take your leave very suddenly.
No, thank you, Brother Sadiq, for the informative session. We'll now have ziyarat by Brother Abbas Hirwan. Salawat.
I'm so sorry, I can't stick my feet on the arm, bro. I'm so really sorry.
Yep.
I don't mind doing it, Joel.
No, no,
Don't go.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كريم الله السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله السلام عليك يا وارث علي أمير المؤمنين ولي الله السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والبتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرزيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأسلاب الشامكة والأرحام المتحرة. لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من داعم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرزي وزكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وعلام الهدى والأروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياء رسوله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن بشراء ديني وخواتيمي عملي وقلبي لقلبكم سلم لأمركم متبع صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. زيارة علي أكبر عليه السلام. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن حسين الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها الشهيد وابن الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرزيت به. زيارة شهداء كربلاء. السلام عليك يا أولياء الله وأحبه. السلام عليك يا أصفياء الله وأوده. السلام عليك يا أنصار دين الله. السلام عليك يا أنصار رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا أنصار فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الزكي الناصر. السلام عليك يا أنصار أبي عبد الله بأبي أنتم وأمي تبتم وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما. فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. ذات حسن أبو الفضل عباس. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل عباس ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك أيها العبد الصالح المطيع لله ولرسوله. السلام عليك قد جاهدت ونصحت وصبرت حتى أتاك اليقين. لعن الله لكم من الأولين والآخرين والحقيق بدرجك الجحيم. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء السلطان يا أبو الحسن علي بن موسى الرضا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب الزمان ألمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهلا مخرجك وظهورك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك العليل وعلى أبويه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرزك سوى وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.